It's basically making what's called a straw man argument. A straw man argument. It's a straw man argument. It's a straw man argument. A straw man argument. Straw man argument. Straw man argument. There's straw man argument. There's straw man argument. Another straw man argument here. There's a straw man argument. Straw man argument. The straw man argument. The straw man argument. Straw man argument.
G'day, fuckheads. Oh shit. Gamza has just given us a masterclass lesson in how to completely fuck up a response video. Impressive that he doesn't upload a single video in a month, but 6 hours after I dropped my take on the grim darkness of 40k, smash, blam blam, 50-minute video. Epic. Now you guys know I'm not really into long videos, so I'll be taking a few key points and highlights from his response, give my thoughts, and then put this fun little interaction to bed. Most of the 50 minutes is just Gamza rambling, so don't worry, if you watch my original video and then this one, you don't need to watch his to understand what's going on. I watched it twice, so you didn't have to. The first thing I want to make absolutely clear is that this video was not dedicated or targeted towards Gamza, despite what he thinks.
Since I watched it and I found out that the video was mainly about me and the things that I've been saying.
If it was, I would have put his name, picture, or even a reference to him in my title or thumbnail. His only reference at the start as an example, and then in 2 paragraphs of the video. I make a number of key points regarding my opinion about the grim darkness of 40k, and Gamza is only a part of one of those points.
I've never said that Warhammer 40k belongs to me.
Not about you, dude.
He's bringing up things that I really haven't complained about.
Video still isn't about you.
But overall, I would have to say that this video isn't getting really down to the point. It's just kind of skimming over things that I've mentioned a while back.
Oh, what's this? At the 120 mark, G-Man, you still have 5 minutes and 40 seconds until this becomes about you. This is where Gamza's strange obsession to the term strawman comes into play. Strawman meaning when one party refutes the opposite party's argument that was never made by that party. I wasn't talking to or about Gamza until the 7-minute mark. I had not attacked any of his points or shot down any of his arguments until that exact point. Before we had hit that point, however, Gamza had said the word strawman 6 times. Trust me, Gamza, you aren't that important. Because of this, it's pretty funny when Gamza opens up his response by trying to analyze my debate tactics.
So, what I am seeing is an old debate tactic that's essentially appealing to common ground.
Starting with us finding common ground. Mate, I'm just being objective and spitting facts at the start of the video. You can't have common ground on facts, they either are or aren't true. Once you understand that my video is not dedicated to Gamza at all, and just mentions him as an example of the toxic side of Warhammer for one of my points, his response is way more entertaining, because it comes across as the delusions of a narcissist or an egomaniac, trying to respond to someone who just isn't talking to them. Ironically, making every single use of the phrase strawman argument up until the 33rd minute of this video, a strawman argument. I won't be using that term for the rest of this video, however, as I actually have real points to make here. To be honest, I got pretty excited when the title of the video was a mockery of my videos, and the thumbnail looked like some low-budget backyard boxing match promo. He then even opened up his intro with a strange rendition of my intro.
G'day, guys and gals.
I was ready for some solid, good old-fashioned dirty shots, so I was a little bit disappointed when he kept it above the belt, but I respect it, so we're going to continue that theme. A positive to this is that Gamza was genuine in his response for once. He shed his bravado, as he calls it, which is good because when he says all the dumb shit later in his response, he can't hide behind his bravado.
That when people make YouTube videos, a lot of it is bravado, a lot of it is just let's have some fun.
As an excuse this time. Yes, Gamza, a lot of being a YouTuber is bravado, but just because something is displayed through bravado doesn't make it immune to ridicule or criticism. It's not something you can hide behind, especially when it's unclear when you're stating your opinion or not. Generally, when you say,
hands down, I gotta be honest with you,
it means you're about to speak your opinion. Justifying you saying shitty things as bravado is like when someone gets caught out for being a dickhead and says, "Oh, I was only joking, bro." It just comes across as a pathetic way to try weasel your way out of a hole you just dug yourself. Now we've established that this is the real Gamza talking.
I'm taking this video slightly more serious than I would normal videos. So
his whole point kind of shits itself as soon as he starts unironically talking about people's IQ.
I'm going to be a bit insulting here, but people with a bit of a lower IQ and who are more emotional, they miss that point.
And then he really drives the nail in the coffin by praising Alex Jones.
Kind of like Alex Jones, and it's kind of funny. Alex Jones did drop some truthful things when he was saying stuff, but he had such a crazy bravado that it's like you either had the IQ to understand what he was saying and what he was doing, called marketing and stuff, and other people couldn't see that.
Alex Jones is the man who claimed that the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax, causing the families of the very young victims to be harassed and given death threats by his audience. But yes, do tell me how my IQ isn't high enough to understand his core message. No one is bashing Alex because of his gags or bravado. People bash him because he's a piece of shit. That's like saying, I don't agree with George Pell's choice to be a pedophile, but he's a really smart man and a great example of a faithful servant of God. No matter how you phrase it, endorsing trash makes you trash. Before I'm going to continue, I found something hilariously ironic. When I first learnt about Gamza's response video, I commented something pretty generic on it before I watched it. When I went back to that video, my comment was top comment. Pretty good gag, I thought. Then suddenly, it stops getting likes and the people who were miles behind me flew ahead, despite the downvotes of Gamza's video soaring. Gamza, for someone that is always complaining about weak-minded soy boys, it's pretty hilarious to see that you hid my comment because you got upset that it was the top comment on your video. Say it with me, team. Ego maniac. Or little bitch if you prefer. I'm easy with either one. For someone who claims he has a high IQ, Gamza really doesn't like doing his research. The saying, judge a book by its cover, is quite literal here, as Gamza shits on Warhammer Adventures time and time again.
All this Warhammer Adventures trash.
Now, I'm not crazy about Warhammer Adventures, and I don't like the art style either, but I actually researched stuff before coming out with opinions on them.
I don't know, I haven't read Warhammer Adventures.
He then goes on to say how stupid it is that they try fit Warhammer Adventures into a universe where Cornite cultists slit their throats, or a story about a cultist who had his skin on his fingers peeled back and then the bones filed down into claws. As a side note, that's grimderp as fuck. But if you had done your research, I think you would see that a Necron attack resulting in the death of everyone, including the Ultramarines and the main character, to fit pretty nicely with a couple cranky boys killing themselves.
And the way that he's described it, it still sounds quite like a children's book.
I really don't know what kind of children's book you've been reading, Gamza, but Ultramarines getting massacred is something the grimdark universe of 40k doesn't often get into. So if you want to be silly, we could say that Warhammer Adventures has more balls than a lot of the Horus Heresy.
And if he's calling this grim dark because one of the main characters died, that just sounds kind of like, I mean, didn't people in the Harry Potter books die? So it's kind of like, that's not exactly an element of grimdark that we're looking for here. Warhammer, it's kind of silly because it's like saying, hey, look, in this Warhammer Adventures, a character died and it was a kid. And we're supposed to just be like, oh my gosh, this is grimdark. I think it's just kind of silly at that point.
Yeah, dude, twist my message and completely ignore the fact that I also mentioned the massacre of the guardsmen, the crushing defeat of the Ultramarines, and then the horror a group of children would feel as they're stalked by an undead, uncaring robot they have no chance of beating as the aspects of the grimdark theme. Make it all about one of my points to try and form another irrelevant point of yours. Here's a free lesson. If you don't like the art style of something, instead of being like, Lamau, look at this weak soy boy child trash, say, I don't know anything about Warhammer Adventures or its theme, but I'm not really a fan of the artwork style as it seems like it's catering to a younger audience, an audience I'm not a part of. Another quick note here, as I know some people will be like, Majorkill, you said this video wasn't about Gamza until the 7th minute mark, but I don't believe you. You were just pretending that because of backlash. There's literally a quote when I'm intimidating a grimderp nerd about the Demonkula bar. I can actually picture these nasally neckbeard fucks sitting around a table jerking off being like, oh yeah, the Demonkula bar, oh yeah, so grimdark, this is true Warhammer. No, Frederick, that is just one of the many themes Warhammer has. Where I use the name Frederick as the example of the nerd. If any of this had been about Gamza directly, I would have said Gamza instead of Frederick. Also,
let's say Astartes, on the first episode, which I don't even know if I've watched yet. To be honest, that's also one of the reasons why I don't watch text-to-speech.
Doesn't watch Astartes or text-to-speech. Fucking heretic. Gamza is getting so into my video at this point that even when I take a step back and speak about things objectively, like how Death of Hope's intro tribute rubbed some of the newer fans the wrong way, which isn't an opinion by me, it literally rubbed a few of them the wrong way, he still gets defensive about it and acts like I just provided some kind of rebuttable argument about it.
What is the issue with that? If he created that film and he dedicated it towards the old fans, and even if this guy disagrees with me entirely, that's like, if Mark wants to disagree with me, that's cool. Which I don't even know if he has. I haven't looked at his channel in a while. But if he created this film for a particular fan base, what does it matter if it rubbed people the wrong way? This kind of reminds me of like, let's go along to get along type attitude. And that's actually what I've spoken out against for quite some time. And this is what I'm really seeing here with Majorkill so far. So I would definitely disagree with that.
I didn't say there was an issue, mate. Relax. You're so hell-bent on countering everything I say that you're even able to fabricate an argument from a factual point I made. I wish there was some kind of term for that.
I made my video towards the people who were complaining about it. So what seems to be the issue about that?
Imagine dedicating an entire rant video towards 32 people who upvoted a pretty low-key critique of a video you didn't even make. I wonder what you will dedicate towards the hundreds of people unsubscribing from you, or the hundreds more downvoting your video. How exciting. After a grueling 34 minutes where Gamza pauses the video every 5 seconds to complain that the video not dedicated to him isn't rebutting his arguments very well, we finally get to the part of the video that should actually start making sense, the 7-minute mark of my video. I say should here, not does. I want to make something crystal clear. For me, no word or words are offensive. Words should not offend anyone by themselves. It's the intent behind the words that can have that offensive impact. This is something a lot of people who watch me get and understand, that when I say horrific things in my videos, no one is really fazed because there's always comedic context and never any malice. So when Gamza says dyke,
there's nothing wrong with that, but why do you have to purposely make them look like dykes? That was my argument.
You can actually feel the malicious intent behind it. It's really unnecessary to be used in that way. For those that don't know, dyke is the equivalent of faggot for women. As we've discussed, Gamza likes to hide behind his bravado, so I was pretty blown away when it got to the part where I called him out for being a homophobe. He just full owned it and backed it up.
Now, I gotta say, I stand by this comment.
Mate, you were saying that by Soldier being gay, he was no longer cool, and then you drew a comparison between being gay and being a pedophile. If you said, I don't like how Blizzard seems to be pandering to the SJWs by randomly making Soldier 76 gay, then sure, you have an argument. Not a strong argument, as someone's sexual orientation isn't relevant at all. His voice lines in game didn't change, and his tactical visor didn't start locking onto people's dicks, but you'd have an argument. Instead, you just threw this out there. In between this and the dyke comments, can we say that you're a genuine homophobe, or is this just more bravado? Imagine actually disliking a group of people due to factors outside of their control. Yikes. Gamza opened his soy video basically saying he was so triggered by the 20 or 30 odd people who didn't like Death of Hope on the Reddit that he had to do a retake of his video because he was so toxic.
This might be a bit of a long rant. I already did one version of this video and I think it was probably way too toxic. So in this video, I'm gonna calm things down just a little bit. I think I was getting way too insulting on the last one.
I highlighted this obviously, especially since Gamza likes to throw around the word snowflake a lot, and he wasn't a fan. Like, imagine being that triggered by a small group of people having valid constructive criticism against Death of Hope.
So, valid constructive criticism. So, at this point, he's saying that my criticism is not valid and constructive, but their criticism was valid and constructive. So,
no, Gamza. Calling people weak soy boys who are raising weak children because they didn't like a video that you clearly jerk off to isn't valid constructive criticism. Valid constructive criticism doesn't have to mean that the acting on that criticism will create a better result. It just means it was delivered in a way that was reasonable and designed to offer potential improvements to what they see. Some people like to tell me that I should be less edgy and swear less so I get monetized easier or have a better time with sponsorships. Whilst I don't think becoming family friendly would really help my channel, they are still offering me valid, constructive criticism. If instead they insulted me and called me a racist pig, then that would not be valid, constructive criticism. That's the key difference. And as a last point, goes on to say that Games Workshop doesn't care about making good animations, and that it's the fans who are responsible for Games Workshop's success, which is once again bullshit. They hide the creative hell's reach for an upcoming...
I don't remember saying that it's only up to the fans to make animations or something along those lines, so I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about there. Warhammer 40k is skyrocketing when it comes to more notoriety. And it's mainly on the part of the fans that have been pushing better animations than Games Workshop has ever made. Because Games Workshop doesn't care about that.
Caught out, son. To be honest, I could talk about this for a lot longer, but this video is already longer than it ever needed to be. I never even really needed to make it in the first place. The response for the community to my video has been amazing. Like, I gained the highest amount of subscribers and feedback in a 48-hour period than I ever have before, whilst, Gamza didn't. Once again, as I said guys, I love the grim darkness of 40k, and I never had a go at Gamza for loving it either, but you've got a guy who's skewed towards liking very dark themes in movies.
It's not the type of movie for me. I prefer movies like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Aliens. Stuff like that is epic, it's more dark, it's more serious. When I see Avengers, there's so much like comedic relief, or comic relief, whatever you want to call it, and I'm just like, ugh.
And dislikes memes and jokes about or in Warhammer. And because of that, his attitude is appalling. The only videos he makes these days are complaints about Warhammer and its community. If you want to preserve your standard of grimdark within Warhammer, why not make lore videos on grimdark subjects? Why not learn 3D animation and help Mark with his? There is nothing I can stand less than people who complain about shit without doing anything about it. If Gamza makes a reply to this video, which I'm sure he will, after all it only took him 5 hours to make his previous one, I won't be replying to it. There's really nothing to be gained out of continuing this for me. I have bigger and brighter things on the way, and I have said what I needed to say, and I think Gamza has done the same. Oh yeah, and so this video isn't clickbait. Could Gamza survive Warhammer 40k? Absolutely fucking not. He's a Christian, he'd get shot as a heretic straight away.